Eurostar, formerly known as Thalys, on the routes Paris-Brussels, but also between Paris and the Netherlands and some parts of Germany. These trains are really popular and are pretty often fully booked. For this summer, during the Olympics, the Belgian state-owned railway company launched a new service along this route. During the Olympics in Paris, this will be an additional train, but by the end of this year, this service should be adjusted a little bit and should be a regular service. So join me on board of this train from Paris to Brussels, or the other way around, depending how you're traveling, to release some of the pressure of these trains, the Eurostar trains. I'll tell you more about this in the video, but for now let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. I arrived the same morning with a Eurostar from the Netherlands to Paris. I'm wondering what background music I should choose for this, by the way. Maybe some typical French, some accordion? Even though French people really say a lot to me, I should not use the accordion as background music. I'm sorry for you guys, here it goes. Ah, Paris, the city of love. Absolutely great culture, fashion, many other great things. But if you watch this video, you know we are not here to see any of this. I didn't even came for any of this. I basically came to Paris to travel back a couple of hours after I arrived here. I didn't even left the station, or at least the area of the railway station. And don't get me wrong, I love Paris. There's just so much to discover, and especially on a cultural level. But, well, we're not here for that this time. Today's railway journey starts at Paris North Station. This is one out of the many terminal railway stations in Paris. Paris, you'll find, like basically some other bigger European cities, several terminal railway stations that all do serve a different direction. Paris North Station is serving the Netherlands, big parts of Belgium, the United Kingdom, a part of Germany, and of course domestic trains north from Paris. And even though there are high-speed trains that will bypass Paris, so you don't always need to change trains if you travel along these routes. If you change trains in Paris, you just have so many more options and also more affordable trains because, well, you just have a broader selection of trains you can choose from. So for me, as an enthusiastic traveler that's really trying to avoid flying as much as possible, I'm here more often than you might think at first. And I'll take you along my journeys to show you what it's like to travel on a more sustainable way of transportation. Because the train is just by far the most sustainable choice. This graph shows the environmental impact between Brussels and Paris. It's based on the Eurostar though, but you can travel 384 times by train to have the same carbon footprint as traveling one time by plane on this route. And between Brussels and Paris, even the slow train that we'll be taking today is slightly faster than flying. At least if you count from city center to city center. The last time I was here, it's not that long ago actually, when I traveled to Morocco by train from the Netherlands. And now I'm back. Well, for this video I will not do a station review. However, I like to give you some background information about this route. And for this, let's take a closer look on the route map for Eurostar trains. Eurostar merged with another big company that was Thalys, and Thalys is known for the high-speed trains, for example between the Netherlands via Brussels to Paris, and also to the Ruhr area in Germany via Brussels to Paris. And now it's just all called Eurostar, the trains to the United Kingdom and also the trains between Germany and Amsterdam and Paris. One thing that all former Thalys Eurostar trains do have in common, all these trains do go to the railway station of Brussels South. Some of these trains do start their journey here, but pretty much all these trains do at least call here. So from Brussels to Paris you have the highest capacity. Although there are many railway passengers that will take these Eurostar trains from other destinations, a little bit more up north, for example Germany or the Netherlands. For those destinations, taking these Eurostar trains really makes a bigger impact in the travel time than from Brussels. Simply because you're traveling along a longer distance and therefore a high-speed line, higher speed, straight railway lines just have a bigger impact on the travel time. When it comes to travel time, comfort and especially the environmental impact, well, these trains are absolutely the winner on the routes where they are serving. I mean, taking the train on this route is even for not so enthusiastic railway passengers just the most obvious way to travel. However, there's one thing about these Eurostar trains. Even though they refurbished some trains and they do have a higher capacity now by about 10%, these trains are so extremely popular that they are pretty often fully booked. And also, ticket prices can be skyrocketing for the same reason. I mean, I don't know if you noticed on my channel if you're a regular viewer, but I really try to indirectly give you a lot of alternatives on these routes, simply because these trains are pretty often fully booked. Apart from the Eurocity that I'll be taking right now in this video, I will mention some other alternatives as well at the end of this video. And if you want to travel with alternatives, you have to know this a little bit. Because Eurostar merged with Thalys, or the other way around, and they all have the name Eurostar now, they do have a different fleet, and also the blue-yellow trains will be used this summer on the routes between the Netherlands and Paris. Those trains have a much higher capacity, of around 900 passengers per train set. In a way, it feels like Eurostar is so successful, they're destroying themselves in their own success. And for that, during this summer, at least during the Olympic and Paralympic Games, the Belgian state-owned railway company also launched this train. If you're known with trains in Belgium, you might also say, well, this is just an ordinary Belgian train. And yes, it is, but that doesn't matter. It means we have extra capacity on the route between Brussels and Paris. This is not a high-speed train, so this train will operate along the conventional, old-fashioned railway lines. Therefore, the speed is way lower, and these trains, well, have the potential to serve more towns along the way. At this very moment though, so I'm talking about the summer of 2024, these trains do only go at the railway station of Paris North, Mons in Belgium, and in Belgium also at the railway station of Brussels South. There are some bigger, quite interesting towns along the way as well, and I think it would be great if that train would also make official stops over there. However, when it comes to this, there are still some political challenges, and especially when it comes to ticket sales. I'll get back to this point a little bit later in the video. But before we continue, discover the train, both the in and the outside, just a quick interruption of this video. I hope you like this video so far. If you do so, or if it's a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up. If you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. This is not so comfortable. It's also not meant to lay on, so go down. For now, let's continue with this video. Before we jump into this train, let's take a close look at the exterior of these trains. These trains on the route Paris-Brussels will be pulled or pushed by a Belgian Railway Class 18 engine. This is a locomotive made by Siemens. There's only one first class carriage on board of this train, and the first class carriage is extra recognizable with a stripe above the windows that does exactly indicate where you will find the first class. This is pretty common along trains in Europe, by the way. Apart from that, the number 1 and 2 at the side of the trains right next to the entrance doors do indicate if this is a first or a second class carriage. This train consists of the I-11 carriages of the Belgian state-owned railway company SNCB, or the Dutch abbreviation NMBS. These second-class carriages do have a capacity of 80 seats, and the first-class carriage has a capacity of 60 seats. This train consists of 8 carriages. You will find 1 first-class carriage, and then you find 7 second-class carriages, including 1 control car. What makes this train have a capacity of 620 seats? Actually, I don't know exactly, because I think the control car might have slightly less seats. Speaking of which, it seems like the control car is not being used, so the engine is always at the front of the train. So there was an engine swap in Paris. One thing was absolutely for sure, this train was getting a lot of attention from lots of railway enthusiasts from the region, also along the way between Paris and Brussels. I reviewed these trains before in Belgium, for example on the route from Ostend to Eupen. but also recently on the route from Aachen in Germany to Liège in Belgium. That's an all-station service. And basically these carriages will always be combined with another carriage where you can take bikes on board of the train. Sometimes, and especially on some smaller trains in Belgium, you can put the bike in this area near the driver, so you have to put it in the grey door. But I don't think that's happening on this train. This here is the entrance of the cab car, so the control car at the front or the back of the train. And this is also the accessible area of the train. To be totally honest with you, I don't think that this is a really nice train if you are traveling in a wheelchair. But don't get me wrong, for the rest I really think these are good trains. I mean, they don't have barrier-free access, but that shouldn't be a big problem because you find machines that can lift you up from the platform into the train. But this here, this is the accessible area on board of the second class. It's not that great, to be honest. Maybe they can take out some seats for the Paralympics. And this here is the accessible toilet. This toilet is slightly bigger. I think it's okay if you're in a wheelchair, I honestly don't know, but I saw definitely bigger accessible toilets on board of trains. If you are traveling with the Eurostar, for example, you also need a special lift that will lift you from the platform into the train and the other way around. So you also need to require some assistance. Let's move on, and since we reviewed the toilet anyway, this is how the regular toilets are on board of these trains. I mean, these toilets are pretty fine. They also have a power plug for a razor. And then, this is how the biggest part of the train is. This specific type of carriage. And this is a second class carriage. You find 2 seats on both sides of the aisle, as you can see. And about 40% of the seats do come in bay seats. So seats facing each other and there's a table at the side. And about 60% of the seats do come in an airline style or long distance bus seat composition. These seats are pretty comfortable, to be honest. All carriages are air conditioned. Even though you will find seat numbers right above the luggage racks, these trains cannot be reserved. For these specific trains, at least at this moment during the Olympics and the Paralympic Games, they will not sell more tickets as there are seats available. During my ride it was not busy at all. However, I just advise you to be a little bit on time at the train so you can find the best spot for you to sit in. Because I was making this trip report, I even bought a first class ticket for myself so I have some more freedom of movement, what wasn't needed after all for this. When it comes to luggage, you have the overhead luggage racks throughout the train and they do provide quite a lot of space for luggage. Apart from that, at the moment the back ends of the seats do face each other. You do have a lot of space for luggage as well. That doesn't only count for this train, but for trains in general. I see a lot of people occupying a lot of space with their luggage, but they don't need to do this. I mean, if it's quiet it's not a big problem, but well, you don't need to do it if you can put it over there. This train is listed as Eurocity train. That's quite a big thing. I mean, Eurocity trains do have a certain list of requirements they need to fulfill. And one of those requirements is having a dining car. And you will not find that on board of this train. Therefore, I filled up my water bottle at the railway station of Paris, where you can do this with tap water. Ideal to reduce some plastic water bottles and plastic waste. You see this a lot in French railway stations, by the way. So, this way I at least had some drinks for my journey. And since I need to lose some weight anyway, maybe it's good that there was no dining car on board of this train actually. Although I really think a dining car gives a great experience about a train ride. Anyway, for now let's do a seat tour of the second class seats. And I'll start off with the airline style or long distance bus seat composition seats. Near all windows for all seats you find a coat hanger next to the window, and all windows do have a sunscreen. There's a sturdy fold-out table for the airline style long distance bus seat composition seats in the seat in front of you, and the legroom is pretty generous. There's also a small footrest, but I don't really like to use this. At the side there's a small litter bin. I feel like for the bay seats, so the seats facing each other, there's slightly less legroom. For those seats there's a table at the side, and right under the table you find a small litter bin as well. However, if you're traveling with a family, for example, with kids, well, you also need less legroom. At the moment these carriages were being built, they also had a phone booth on board. Well, that's not being used right now, and that area can be used for some extra space for luggage. First class comes in a 2x1 configuration, just like most European first class trains. Just like in second class, you have the overhead luggage racks for your luggage, and also the backends between the seats can be used for luggage, obviously. Let's do a seat tour in first class. For this I will use the airline style or long distance bus seat composition seats. You do have also a generous amount of legroom. It's slightly more than in second class, but I don't really feel a big difference. Footrest, a sturdy folder table and a little bin at the side. Well, just like second class, coat hangers near the windows, and all windows do have a sunscreen. However, you also have a reading light in first class. Here it goes. Personally, I don't really use those reading lights. These trains do have a very limited amount of power sockets. Actually, they're not official power sockets, but you can find them at the end of the carriages. Near the information screens, there are 2 power sockets per carriage. So just bring a charged phone and maybe a power bank. There's no Wi-Fi aboard of these trains, but personally I think it's not needed. I get along with mobile data in general. Screens at the end of the compartments do host basic route info. Announcements are being made in multiple languages. I think this is great, and especially a compliment towards the Belgian state-owned railway company, who's really strict with language rules. I can mention several international regional trains of the state-owned railway company of Belgium, where announcements are only being made in the language of the language area where you're in. Not if you cross Germany, by the way, then everything just stays French. When it comes to the routes Liège, Aachen, both via Maastricht and also the direct train, I do really have some big criticism on the Belgian state-owned railway company, by the way, but you can find that in those specific videos. Now about this route. Before I show you the views from the train, I'll tell you a little bit more while the train is being pulled out of Paris North railway station. I really like the views from the back of the train, by the way. This route is being operated together with the local train company TER Hauts-de-France. This is basically a subsidiary of the state-owned railway company of France that is responsible for the local trains in this area of France. At this moment, during both the Paralympic and the Olympic Games, these Eurocity trains do not call at railway stations in France. They will just pass through. Even though there's one stop at the border where they change the staff, at least the French staff, that's not an official stop. It will follow basically the routes for the regional train, what used to be an intercity back in the days, by the way, from Paris to Maubeuge. However, at the railway station of Aulnoy-Marie, this train will go up north, so it will not go to Maubeuge. Well, I'll get back to that a little bit later on in the video. For now, I just show you some views from the train along this route, and I write some information about the route on the screen. And I'll get back to you a little bit later on in this video. We're now at the border town at the French side. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but I was here before and things didn't went too smooth back then. You can find the video on the up right now. I think we have to change stuff. We'll use the voiceover for the rest of the video. Well, this is the railway station of Aulnoy-Marie. This is a junction station just before the border with Belgium. You find one railway line that head into Belgium, to Mons to be exactly, and the other one to the French town of Maubeuge. In Maubeuge you find several times per day connection on regional trains that will go to Charleroi in Belgium. However, for Brussels this is the fastest route. At this very moment, the specific train where we're in is the only train that is crossing the border between Aulnoy-Marie and Mons in Belgium. At the moment I wanted to make a trip report about this route from Mons to Aulnoy-Marie and then further on to Paris. That was in January 2022. We had to deal with COVID and there was a slightly increase of new infections. So my train got cancelled on the route from Aulnoy-Marie to Paris. I was really grumpy back then, but I have to say they solved this extremely well back then. I had hardly any delay, because I could travel with a regional train to Lille and from there on I was being rebooked on a TGV in Wee high-speed train to Paris. Our train makes a brief stop at the railway station of Mons. This railway station is still not finished, but if it's finished it's gonna look amazing. However, the costs for that railway station are, well, not realistic. They're way too much over budget. It's made by the famous Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava. Roughly 35 minutes after leaving Mons, our train arrives at the railway station of Brussels South, or Brussels Midi. They have two names, a French and a Dutch name. The basic rule is all international trains that do go to Brussels do call here. To give you a little bit more information about this route and also other alternatives if you're traveling to Paris without taking the Eurostar or the former Thalys trains. The red Eurostar trains on the route from Paris to Brussels and up north do travel totally along the high-speed line and are just by far the fastest way to travel on this route. However, a quick overview of other routes. What I personally do most, I travel with Belgian intercity trains to Lille in France, and from there on I change with TGV in Wee trains to Paris or other destinations in France. Another one is to travel between Paris and Maubeuge, and in Maubeuge you can change on a local train to Charleroi. That route is basically for a big part the same as the route that we'll be taking today. Then you also find TGV in Wee high-speed trains from Paris to Dunkirk along the coast. From Dunkirk you will find free buses to the railway station of De Panne, it's also called Adinkerk, in the southeast of Belgium along the coast. Then something else, what I already mentioned in written on the screen a little bit earlier on in the video. There's something that's worrisome about ticket fares, because the SNCB, the state-owned railway company of Belgium, is working together for this with Terre Haute-de-France. This is a border region, so it has a lot of railway lines into Belgium from France and the other way around. However, if I want to book tickets for those trains, and there are quite some Belgium trains that will head into France along these railway lines, I cannot book those tickets via the Dutch state-owned railway company for the last part of the journey, so from the border with Belgium into France. This is really unacceptable. It is possible because the back end of the Dutch state-owned railway company, their booking system is exactly the same as the back end of the Belgian state-owned railway company. Little geek side note, also the Danish state-owned railway company is using this system just like the Luxembourgish state-owned railway company. The booking system is called Atlantis. But by having these trains not being able to buy those tickets via the Dutch state-owned railway company is just unacceptable. I don't know exactly who's to blame for this. I've heard one time that this is the French region Terre Haute-de-France, but I don't know, so I'm not gonna point at one person. I think we should really do something about this, because if you want to encourage railway passenger, especially cross-bordering railway traveling, then this should be bookable. And this is just unacceptable. It makes me really mad. If there's anyone who wants to reach out to me about this topic or maybe make a journalistic item with a better reach than what I have, I'm open to this. And I have some more things about this, what really needs to be improved. But for now, let's round up this video, because it takes too long already. Welcome to Brussels South, Brussels Midi. I hope you like this video. I definitely like this new connection. Quite disappointed to see that it's not that well occupied, but I also think because tomorrow the Olympics will start, so a lot of people will travel to Paris and not so many people will travel back. Also, holidays just started, so I think people are traveling more down south than the other way around. So I really hope this is going to be a good, successful connection, and they will launch this as a good, normal, regular train at the end of this year for the 2025 timetable. I'll try to make a trip report on that as well, because then, from what I've heard, it will make some stops along the way. Probably I told you everything already with the usual voiceover. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it or this has been helpful to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to see more, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. If there's some questions or feedback or comments, let me know in the comment sections. Before we really end up this video, one last thing. Once again, thank you for watching. If you are interested in other trip reports, of course you can find them on this channel, and obviously you can always subscribe to see new videos coming up. Apart from that, in the description of this video on YouTube, you also find a link to a map, and on this map you can find all videos as well, but then on a map. See you on the next one.